ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ವಿದ್ಯಾಪೀಠ ವಿಧಾತಾರಂ ವಿದ್ಯಾವಾರಿಧಿ ಚಂದಿರಂ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿವತ್ಸಲಂ ವಂದೇ ಮಹಾಮಹಿಮ ಸದ್ಗುರು. ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. In the previous part, we concluded the third sarga. The third sarga concludes with the narration of how Vasudeva led his life in the Gurukula. Vasudeva, along with all his co-fellows, his classmates, showed extreme strength, extreme charm and intelligence. And these all may seem very much common, very much similar today nowadays. But Vasudeva's childhood life plays a very much great significance in all of our lives. The poet constantly emphasizes the importance of remembering the Lord and His supremacy in our day-to-day lives. Because, especially for women, we are always engaged in all these household chores and these worldly pleasures and activities. It becomes very much hard for us to remember God and His supremacy. So, if we adopt the policy of work is worship, if we adopt this policy, then it becomes a very much easier approach for us to go towards the Lord, to go progressively nearer towards the God. But nowadays it has become completely opposite. The irony here is worship has become work today. The pray, the worship, what we do to God has also become a part of our work today without any bhakti, without any devotion towards the Lord. This is a scenario of many of our generation today. Therefore, we must always recall in our minds the stories of Vasudeva. We must imbibe all these stories to our children so that slowly we can progressively move nearer towards the God. Not at once, progressively towards the God. So now let us come back to the story today. In the beginning of the 4th chapter, we see that Vasudeva completed his Gurukula life and studies over there under his guru, and he returned back. He shiningly returned back. But everyone in the house were quite happy upon returning their son. Vedavati Devi and Madhyageha Bhatta were very much happy. But Vasudeva was constantly unhappy. But the reason here because Vasudeva's reason of birth on this earth is mainly to establish the Dvaita philosophy. And this would be achieved by leaving behind all these materialistic pleasures and worldly pleasures. This would be achieved only by renouncing himself from this life and attaining the sacred order of penance by taking the sannyasa ashrama. Because he knew that he was not just simply born to marry, multiply and then leave this earth. His main intention, his main reason of taking the birth, Vayudeva, the main reason of taking the birth on this life is to establish the Dvaita philosophy and remove all the doubts regarding all the philosophies from the minds of the people. Vasudeva knew his parents wouldn't accept his decision because they were bound by affection. Therefore, without informing anyone, Vasudeva quietly moved away from the house and started searching for a guru who would order him into sannyasa ashrama. But we always know the divine's mercy. Vasudeva did not take long time in search of guru. He found the guru Achyutapreksha Tirtha Swamiji in Udupi in the temple of Ananteshwara. The poet describes about Achyutapreksha Tirtha here in a few shlokas ahead. Achyutapreksha Tirtha Swamiji was a genuine man. He was bound by his good deeds and he was very much intelligent. It is believed that Achyutapreksha Tirtha Swamiji was born as a Brahmin in his previous Janma, and due to his good fortune he got to eat from the hands of Draupadi Mata itself. And all this much is enough to identify the sanctity and purity of a man. And all this good fortune brought him the luck, brought him the fortune that he was born as the Guru to the Jagat Guru Madhwacharya. So from this we can understand that whatever good deeds, whatever punya we do goes nowhere. All these good deeds, they give us fruit either in this Janma or in the coming Janmas. So as a cycle of metempsychosis, the cycle of births and deaths, Achyuta Preksha Tirtha got the fortune to be born as the Guru to the great Jagat Guru Madhwacharya itself. Achyuta Preksha Tirtha Swamiji was certainly a learned man. He learned the Advaita philosophy from his Guru, and hence he remained in the line of Advaita philosophy. His Guru, while leaving his body, confessed that whatever we study in the Advaita philosophy, nothing was unrealizable, and whatever was written was not realized by anyone till date. This doubt was eating the mind of Achyuta Preksha Tirtha Swamiji, because he completely was puzzled and stunned by his Guru's confession. Since then itself, Achyuta Preksha Tirtha was simply praying and worshipping the Lord Ananteshwara as to who would come and remove his doubt. So it was in this circumstance Vasudeva came, and Achyuta Preksha Tirtha immediately felt a sign that Vasudeva would become the successor to his throne, and he would establish the great Dvaita philosophy and remove all the doubts regarding the Advaita philosophy. Vasudeva at once accepted the secular novice and prostrated himself on the feet of Achyuta Preksha Tirtha. On meeting Vasudeva, here on the other hand, even Achyuta Preksha Tirtha felt a flutter in his mind, and he believed that he was the successor and he should be chosen as his disciple and the heir to the throne. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Madhyageha Bhatta and Vedavati Devi were a bit alarmed, because they were constantly not finding the whereabouts of their child Vasudeva. So Madhyageha Bhatta immediately went in search of Vasudeva everywhere, on the streets of Udupi, Ananteshwara, Pajaka, everywhere. Finally, Madhyageha Bhatta found Vasudeva in the temple of Ananteshwara. On seeing the situation there, Madhyageha Bhatta understood that Vasudeva was going to take the holy order of Sannyas Ashrama. At once, Madhyageha Bhatta was completely heartbroken. He couldn't understand what was going to happen, because Madhyageha Bhatta couldn't bear the pain of leaving his child even for a single hour. How could he bear the pain of leaving his child for complete entire life ahead? Madhyageha Bhatta, not knowing what to do, he literally prostrated himself on the feet of Vasudeva, and begged him to change his decision. This was an unfortunate illusion move, because prostration, namaskara, what we say, prostration is usually done by people to their elders, either in knowledge or in their age, or if it is done to a younger person, then he must be either a sannyasi or extreme knowledgeable person. So when Madhyageha Bhatta prostrated himself in front of Vasudeva, then it was like as if Madhyageha Bhatta was accepting the decision made by Vasudeva and what was bound to happen. This showed as an ominous prediction of what was going to happen in the near future. Madhyageha Bhatta immediately retorted himself from his actions, but everything was vain. Madhyageha Bhatta literally begged himself, he tried to convince in all ways possible to Vasudeva to change his mind, but everything was in vain, because Vasudeva was completely strong, was completely bounded by his decision, because he knew the reason of his birth. Madhyageha Bhatta, not knowing what to do, it was literally like we say body present, mind absent. The same thing happened over there. Madhyageha Bhatta was deeply lost in the thoughts. Only his virtual body was present over there. Not knowing what to do, he immediately returned back home. Here, on the other hand, Vasudeva, along with Achyuta Preksha they carried on with their tour and they started visiting all the holy places. Madhyageha Bhatta, returning home, he explained all whatever has happened to his wife Vedavati Devi. Suddenly, Vedavati Devi and Madhyageha Bhatta felt a void, felt something missing which was impossible to fill. Both the couple they set out again to convince Vasudeva in all ways possible. The conversation between Madhyageha Bhatta, Vedavati Devi, and Vasudeva was quite amusing that day. Madhyageha Bhatta tried to convince Vasudeva. Vedavati Devi also tried to convince, but Vasudeva was not going to accept because he stood firm on his decision. Finally, Madhyageha Bhatta decided to kill himself if Vasudeva didn't accept this. Slowly, temper cooled on both the sides. Madhyageha Bhatta tried to convince Vasudeva as to Vasudeva how would he leave behind his old parents. This shook the minds of Vasudeva. So Vasudeva finally came to a point and he convinced his father, saying that he wouldn't take the sacred order of sannyas ashrama until a younger brother was born and who would take care of his parents. Vedavati Devi and Madhyageha Bhatta accepted that time. Slowly, in a short time, Vedavati Devi got pregnant and she gave birth to a son who became famous later known as Vishnu Tirtha. After Vishnu Tirtha was born, again Vasudeva, he expressed his thought of taking the sacred order of sannyas ashrama, but Madhyageha Bhatta tried to stop him. This time, Vasudeva, he stood firm. He simply said that if he didn't get the permission to take the sacred order of sannyas ashrama, then he would leave this world permanently. Vedavati Devi at once she had to accept because at least as a sannyasi, Vasudeva would be in front of their eyes. Else Vasudeva would leave them completely. So this made Vedavati Devi accept the decision of Vasudeva. Vasudeva, elated upon knowing this, he prostrated on the feet of their parents Madhyageha Bhatta and Vedavati Devi and went in search of Achyuta Preksha Here, on the other hand, Achyuta Preksha Swamiji was also in the wait for his successor, for the heir to the throne, who would establish the great Madhva philosophy. Vasudeva thus had the permission of his parents to carry out his resolution. Hence, Vasudeva entered the sacred order of sannyas ashrama and came to be known as Purna Bodha later. How Vasudeva took the sannyas ashrama and how he was made the successor to the throne as Purna Bodha, we would know it in the next part. So, from all these, if it is a decision made by Vasudeva, Vasudeva would stick to it no matter what. But the decision must be appropriately right. So from this we must understand the significance of Vasudeva, how he led his childhood, how he without his permission from his parents wouldn't even take a step. The same way we must all be bound to the decision of our parents and listen to them. These ideals may carry a great significance to all the present youth today. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.